Warriors of Matrimony, written by Kenneth E. Foltz, Jr., narrated by Darilli. Chapter 2. 5 years later. 4 children played in front of the yellow one-story Western-style house. Calidora, a 4-year-old mirror image of Anala in a pink dress, laughed. She waved her hands in the air. "Over here, Manny!" Manny held a great big red ball. Moe and Barry, the other kids, waved their hands. "Pass it to me," Moe said. "No, me," Barry shouted. Manny tossed it to Calidora. Calidora caught it. She waved the ball around with great joy. "Yeah, I got it!" Calidora opened her eyes in awe. She lowered the ball down. A shadow figure came down the street with a bag over his shoulder and a bouquet of flowers in his hand. "Daddy?" Calidora tossed the ball back behind her as she ran forward. "Daddy!" Calich was now 23, dressed in a black and gray Kamgan army uniform with a green headband that lifted his hair up and tilted it to the left. He walked into the front yard with Calidora running up to him. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy!" Calidora shouted. Calich bent down and picked Calidora up in his arms. "Hey there, Calidora. How's my little princess doing?" Calidora hugged Calich's neck. "I missed you, Daddy!" Calidora dropped her hands down to the base of his neck, getting a good look at her father's face. "That's good to know. So, where's your mother?" Calich asked. Calidora pointed back. "Inside the house!" Calich lowered Calidora back down to the ground. "Okay, why don't you finish playing with your friends while I surprise Mommy?" "Okay." Calidora ran toward her friends. Calich stood up straight. He stared up at his house for a moment before walking toward it. Calich entered the house. He put his bag down next to the door and heard humming coming from the kitchen. Anala, who now had her long hair go straight down her back and dressed only in a pink dress and apron, chopped vegetables on the counter beside the window. The kitchen was standard with a round table set for 3. Calich entered. He snuck up behind Anala as she hummed and prepared dinner. Calich placed his hand on her shoulder. "Hello, dear." Anala spun around and pointed the knife straight at Calich's throat. Calich threw his hands up defensively. He stepped back with a nervous look on his face. "Easy, Anala, it's just me. Don't sneak up on me like that." Anala lowered the knife down to her side. Calich dropped his hands down to his sides and took a breath in relief. "I see your old training kicked in." Anala placed the back of her hands on her hips. "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be on base?" Calich handed Anala the flowers in his hand. "I bought these for you." Anala took and smelled the bouquet. Calich walked over to the kitchen table. He grabbed one of the chairs and sat in it backward. "I got the rest of the week off, so I figured I'd spend it here." Anala took a breath. She put the flowers down on the counter. "I just wish you would have told me earlier. Even after all these years, you're still unreliable." The sound of the door opening came from behind them. Calich shut his eyes and gave a cheesy grin. "Sorry about that." "Daddy!" Anala and Calich looked over to see Calidora run into the room and up to Calich with her arms spread out. Calich lifted her up. "What is it, sweetheart?" "Can you come outside and play with us?" Calidora asked. Anala turned around. "Go on, you two." Anala looked back. "But not for too long. Dinner's almost ready. Be sure to clean up afterwards." Calich stood up. "Okay, sweetie. Let's go have some fun." "Yeah!" Anala returned to cutting vegetables. Calich held Calidora on his shoulders, running around the yard with her friends chasing after them. 3 logs spun through the air. 3 fireballs flew after them, reducing them to ashes. Dozens of logs were piled up against the back of the house. Calich had his fists up, with a red glow that surrounded him, and the children circled around him watching the show. They cheered at the sight. Calich, Calidora, and Anala sat around the table, having dinner that night. Lines curved and crossed in midair, forming a dress that materialized. The pink dress fell in Anala's hands. Anala stuck it out for Calidora to see. The 2 sat on the floor in front of the table that stood in the middle of the living room. Calidora was very excited at the sight. Anala and Calich tucked Calidora into her bed. Calich handed her a bunny rabbit doll that she grabbed around the neck to hold close. They placed a blanket over their little girl, and each gave her a kiss. Anala and Kalich were in their room. Anala, dressed in a nightgown, sat at her vanity brushing out her hair in the mirror. Their bed stood behind her with 2 tables beside it. Kalich leaned against the doorway, with his arms and legs crossed. He stared at Anala. The flowers were in the trash.
You look as beautiful as ever.
Knock it off. There's no one here to overhear us.
I was wondering how long you were going to keep up the sweet wife routine.
Anala looked over at Kalich. This is customary of the women of your country. Anala gazed back into the mirror. Honestly, a patriarch. What a ridiculous concept.
As opposed to your nation, which is matriarch? Why did you marry me?
Anala turned in Kalich's direction. She stopped brushing her hair. You know very well why I married you. Kalich stared at Anala.
My basic training ended a little over a year of our marriage.
Anala shut her eyes. Yes, and by that time we had Calidora.
Are you saying you regret having her?
Of course not. I love my little girl. Anala pushed herself up from the vanity. Still, it's made things very complicated. Anala headed over to the bed. I'm going to sleep.
Fine.
Kalich closed the door as he headed over to the bed as well. He removed his headband and coat, letting them drop to the floor. He then got in the bed on the right side, as Anala pulled the covers over herself. They both turned off the lamps on their side tables. Anala lay on her side, facing away from Kalich. Kalich moved up beside her, wrapping his arm around her waist, his face buried in her hair, sniffing it. Back off, Anala said. Kalich rolled onto his back, sighing. He let his arm fall off the bed.
What if Calidora sneaks in here? What should I tell her? Mama and Daddy aren't getting along?
Just tell her you rolled over. Now, good night.
Good night.
Elsewhere at the Saran military base, a tall circular building that was at least a mile long, with 2 small circular buildings attached to it, stood in the middle of its capital. The lights to the middle tower building were the only ones on.
So, what do you want to do, Colonel Lai?
The voice of a male captain could be heard from the conference hall of the base. Inside the hall, captain rank and higher of the Saran military sat at a long sleek table, with almost all of them being women. Colonel Lai, the 50-something-year-old mother of Anala, sat at the head with her legs crossed and her hands intersected. Colonel Lai was a refined-looking woman for her age, with the eyes of a warrior and long wavy green hair. Lai's eyes were closed.
My daughter has indeed been gone for far too long.
Lai partly opened her eyes and slid them in the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Ling, a 30-something-year-old woman whose blue hair went down in a single braid, with bells attached and helmet on.
Has my daughter made any attempt to contact us about this Ling?
No, ma'am, other than the small updates that have come here. And there she hasn't yet explained why she hasn't returned. Lai brought her eyes forward.
Captain Sa.
Captain Sa, a 30-year-old man, dressed in the standard Saran blue and white, stood up in attention at the far end of the table.
Yes, ma'am. Bring my daughter back to me safe and sound. It should be an easy task, even for a man such as you,
Lai said. Captain Sa bowed.
Yes, ma'am. Good. I'll have passes written up for you, and a company to enter Kangon. Now then, dismissed,
Lei told them. The brown and gold dual doors slid open with Lei walking out into the glossy steel rim hallway. Kane, Lei's husband, and a female soldier stood on either side of the door.
Kane, you're with me.
Lei walked down the hall, with Kane following after her. She placed her hands behind her back as she walked.
So what is the status on our daughter, Lei?
Lei looked over her shoulder.
Don't worry about it.
Lei turned her head back around.
I'm sure even Captain Sa can handle such a simple task, despite the other women's objections. Yes, dear.
Kane and Lei continued their walk down the hall. A few nights later, in a rowdy pub in Kamgon, noise filled the air from dancing girls performing on stage, while warriors and normal working men drank their sorrows away. Some ladies cozy up to the men while they laugh like fools. A cup slammed down on the table. Kalich took a breath as he leaned back in his chair.
What's wrong with you?
A Kamgonian soldier sat down at the chair across from Kalich. Kalich gazed up at the other man, Gal. Gal, a muscular Kamgonian soldier, placed his fist on his cheek and stared in amusement.
Funny how you only come here when you return home.
Kalich doesn't respond. He picked up his cup and took another drink.
I guess it's not easy dealing with a Soronian woman.
Gal put his arm down on the table.
You know what you should do is teach her who's boss.
Kalich gazed down at his drink, moving the cup around in his hand.
You're so weak you have to beat up your wife for her to respect you.
Everybody does it.
Don't hold your breath. Only weaklings like you do it.
Kalich put his cup down and stood up.
I'm going home.
Gal's hand slammed down on the table with a red glow. The table broke apart.
Want to try that again?
Using your new powers, I see.
Everyone in the pub turned their attention to the two Kangonian soldiers. Gal balled up his fist and had a glow wrap around his body.
You're not the only one with it anymore. I'll crush you if you don't get on your knees and beg for forgiveness.
Is that what you say to your wife? I won't even use my power to beat you,
Kalich told him. Gal charged at him. Gal swung at Kalich over and over again as Kalich stepped back and dodged every strike. Kalich backed into a table, knocking it over. Kalich flipped it over. Gal scattered the table with one swift punch. Kalich grabbed one of the flying boards and swung it across Gal's face. That knocked him to the floor. The board broke. Kalich tackled Gal. He delivered several blows to the other man's face before he was thrown off. Both men pulled themselves back up onto their feet. Gal came at Kalich again. Kalich pulled off one of his boots and tossed it at him. Gal destroyed it with his hand and continued his charge. The glow around Gal faded. Kalich took advantage of it and sent him flying into a wall that split up the pub. Gal broke through it, with his power still slightly intact, and rolled into the next wall, falling unconscious. The bartender came out from behind the bar next to Kalich.
Are you two nuts? Military or not, who's going to pay for all this?
Kalich reached into his pocket, pulling out a bunch of cash. He handed it over to the bartender.
Pay for it with this.
Kalich turned around and headed for the door.
Thanks for the drink. Sure, anytime,
said the bartender. Anala tossed her hair back after putting on her nightgown. Kalich sat on the chair in front of the vanity with his arms down on his lap. He looked at Anala as she finished preparing for bed.
We need to talk.
Anala turned around to face him. There's nothing to talk about. Kalich took a deep breath and shut his eyes for a moment. He refocused on his wife.
I never questioned you on this before, but why did you stay after you brought me safely on base?
Anala looked surprised by the question.
That was the scope of your mission, wasn't it?
Kalich narrowed his eyes.
Or was there more to that your country didn't tell us?
A loud scream came from the bedroom, drawing both of their attention. They focused on the door for a moment, then back at each other.
That voice,
Kalich started. Kalidora! Anala finished. Kalich rushed to the door and opened it. Anala ran out with Kalich following. Anala and Kalich's feet pounded across the floor to the door. They entered their daughter's room to see that her window was open and her daughter was gone. They then headed for the front door. Anala ran out onto the walkway with Kalich stopping at the door. Across from them, Captain Sa held up Kalidora by her arm, with two female guards behind him. Kalidora struggled to break free.
Let me go!
Now, little one. Tell me where your mother is this time of night,
Captain Sa said. Second Lieutenant Sa. Captain Sa looked forward to see Anala.
Mama!
Kalidora whimpered.
Oh, Anala, it's been far too long,
the captain said.
You look even more lovely than before. Motherhood suits you well.
Anala took a step forward. She placed her loose fist on her chest. Second Lieutenant, what do you think you're doing with my daughter?
It's Captain now. A lot has changed since you've been gone.
Anala leaned forward, her eyes glaring at him. Answer my question.
Your mother sent me to fetch you.
Anala fell off guard by the announcement.
No one understood why you were taking so long with your mission, even one as slightly complicated as this.
Captain Sa lifted Kalidora up by the back of her dress. He shifted his eyes in her direction.
But now I see you were doing more than just your share of recon on our neighboring nation.
Mommy! Daddy!
Kalidora cried. Kalich stepped off the stoop.
Kalidora!
What does any of that have to do with you holding my daughter, Captain? Anala questioned.
Naturally, Colonel Lai will want to meet her granddaughter.
Kalich stomped up. Anala blocked him with her arm.
You're not taking my daughter anywhere,
Kalich said. Anala looked back at him.
Kalich, I'll handle this.
Anala faced forward.
Captain Sa, I will return once I finish settling things here.
Kalich looked over at his wife.
Anala, don't do this.
Kalidora cried out. Captain Sa got a curious look on his face, then anger filled it.
You have 5 days to finish any so-called business you have left here, and just as incentive.
Captain Sa bounced the crying Kalidora in his hand.
I'll be taking your daughter with me.
Captain Sa turned around and headed out of the front yard. Anala moved forward.
I trust when you wake up you'll come straight home.
The captain spoke.
Wait!
Captain Sa looked over to the right female guard.
Do it.
Sir. Both guards slammed the butt of their spears down. Saronian soldiers that surrounded the base on all sides of its carven walls all slammed down the base of their spears. A baby blue light created a magical time clock over the base, lighting up the sky. A woman looked out over her house. Camgonian soldiers heading for their CHUs saw the light in the sky. Anala ran toward Captain Sa when she was caught up by the light. The entire area froze in time. Captain Sa and his 2 female guards appeared on the valley wall. They walked toward the other soldiers that had gathered around. Captain Sa carried the unconscious body of Kalidora.
All right, we're heading off,
Captain Sa said.
But sir, we haven't gotten our central target,
the female guard replied.
Don't worry, she'll be right behind us. I'm not too keen on dragging a full-grown woman away from her husband.
Captain Sa looked down at Kalidora.
Besides, I'm sure Colonel Lai will be more than satisfied to know she's a grandmother.